Welcome to my home. I was just catching up on my passion, reading. You know, there was a time when a man like me was not allowed to read. You see, I was born into slavery on September 24th, 1857, right here in Tallahassee. Though President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in January 1863, we did not get our full freedom until May 20th, 1865. That was the date when General McCook was sent to Florida to read the proclamation for the benefit of all states that were still holding slaves. Florida was one of those states.
Tallahassee, Florida, a city known for power, policy, and progress. But beneath that is a deeper story. One of resilience, one of survival, one of truth. I didn't just grow up learning this history. I grew up inside it. I remember in its formative years going with my sibling and my grandmother to just play while my grandmother set up, hosted tours, met with community leaders to get its history off of the ground. My grandmother, Althemese Pemberton Barnes, made it her life's mission to ensure these stories would never be erased. And this is where that mission lives.
Most of my time is spent here in the office. The dining room, parlor, and kitchen are on this floor. Nellie and I and the children, Emmeline, James, John Jr., Sarah, and Marion, Virginia, sleep in the rooms upstairs. Due to the nature of my work as secretary of the NAACP, Grand High Priest of the Royal Archmasons of Florida, constant involvement protesting indignities and acts of violence against my people, including lynchings, and my many business ventures, the door to this room is kept locked at all times, even to my family. Feel free to look around downstairs, and please, come again.
Born into a world of limitation, John G. Riley became a man of limitless, and I mean limitless, impact. He was a teacher, a leader, a husband, a father, and a builder of community.
road trip. The statewide effort is part of the America 250 celebration, marking the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The Riley House will help illustrate the contributions of African Americans to the history of Florida and the nation. A sign has already been installed on site, and the museum is included in a road trip guidebook and interactive map. During yesterday's City Commission meeting, Tallahassee Parks and Rec said the recognition is a testament to the work their staff puts into the facility, as well as the legacy established by its founder, Althemese Pemberton Barnes.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention, of course, the legacy that was established by our Executive Director Emeriti, Althemese Pemberton Barnes. But Aron Myers and his staff are doing a tremendous job living up to that legacy and upholding those standards, and receiving a recognition like this is it's exciting for us, and it's a great acknowledgement of their work.
The museum also received $30,000 for a historical panel for an upcoming 2026 exhibit called The World Wars and Post-War Life, showcasing African American veterans.
This event is Blended Lives, and it is a history-based program for our fourth graders in all our elementary schools. And essentially, it's all about getting kids familiar with their local history and what's here around them.
Does anybody know about how much he would make a month being a teacher in McCullough County? I think that it's really important for the children to know that he brought himself up by his bootstraps. He taught himself how to read and write, and he did everything that he possibly could to make his community better.
Read and write. He self-taught himself to be educated to become the principal of Lincoln High School, the first African American.
Coming to Riley House, a part of the history of this is the period when there was not freedom for everyone, but that did not present challenges that could not be overcome. So the life of the owner of Riley House, who was born into slavery, and the legacy of how much he went on to achieve, is a lesson that says it does not matter where one was born, but how far they go in life.
Blended Lives is a collaboration between the Riley Museum and Center, which focuses on the life of John G. Riley, the Historic Capitol, and also Goodwood Museum.
Well, the Bundle Lives program, what we're really trying to do is to get them connected with the historic buildings in Tallahassee and have them learn about the importance of visiting historic sites to kind of get a tangible experience of what history is. And so by visiting these museums like the Riley Museum, Goodwood, and here at the Historic Capitol, they're able to see history in action.
It's one thing to see something in a textbook and to you know, kind of hear about it, reading it in a book, but when children are able to see it up close and to feel it, it brings what's in the textbook alive.
Take time to educate your kids and educate yourself, because what you will realize, anywhere you live in America, in cities, you will find inner cities that have the same kind of story that you need to make sure you preserve that area. And I think you will find cities now are very involved in it.
School is about what we learn, and what we learn about history is really what takes place outside those walls. And so laws, government, takes place in the Capitol. Inventors, early educators like John G. Riley, that takes place outside their school building. So it takes them outside that building and it lets them experience history where it actually took place.
His legacy lives in every opportunity created through education.
We just moved from where we were looking at Tallahassee before the Civil War. This second exhibit looks at the Civil War and the Reconstruction era. Interesting thing about the exhibits here at Riley Museum is that we do everything ourselves. So we do all of our research in-house. Of course, we have consultants that we reach out to. We do all the layout of the interpretive panels on our own.
It takes a lot of effort because remember, we had an exhibition before this one and we have to take that down. But when we do that, we're working with an empty canvas. So we have to put stuff up and down and move around, and it's just like designing an empty canvas.
What's everybody think? Talk out loud.
I think the illustration didn't feel right. I agree. I think illustration just right. I think that was good.
Think we're good?
Yeah, I think so.
All righty. I think we're good. We have 4 to 5 interns, folks that are interested or studying history or museum studies to get firsthand knowledge and experience putting together actual exhibits. In the process of putting up our exhibit, we had some very interesting weather in Tallahassee most folks have heard about.
We had a winter storm, which meant that we had snow, which meant that some of the panels that we were expecting to arrive here at a certain time, they delayed, and we had to also delay the exhibition, but at the end everything worked out.
What we're trying to do every time we put together an exhibit, we will produce something like this. It's educational, it's amazing, it's historical facts of Tallahassee. And
what we hope people really take from this exhibit is that this is just part of the story that we're looking to tell over these 4 years, starting at the antebellum. This exhibit, which looks at the Civil War and Reconstruction. The next exhibit will be the World Wars and Post-War Life, and we'll end this 4-year exhibition series with the Civil Rights Movement.
The day was clear and bright, with just enough breeze blowing to...
I remember being one of these children in the 4th grade, visiting the Blended Lives program that included the John G. Riley House and other museums in the county. It was so fun and a great opportunity to learn about where I came from. Preserving history isn't easy. It requires vision and sacrifice. The Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network was created to ensure that these stories endure the test of time.
A noble leader. James and Sarah Wells Riley were married when slavery was a way of life in the American South. They lived in Tallahassee, Florida. Sarah gave birth to a son on September 24th, 1857. James and Sarah named their little boy John Gilmore Riley. John's mother, Sarah, had 3 sisters and 3 brothers. They were all born into slavery in Virginia. Sarah's family was brought to Florida to work for a man named James Kirksey. Kirksey was very wealthy. He owned a store, a large plantation, and a big house in Tallahassee. Most of the Wells family worked at the house in town. Sarah's ancestors came from Africa. When she was a little girl, she learned stories about Africa. She told John stories about how African people lived before they came to America. He learned about their customs and the way they dressed. Slaves were set free after the Civil War ended in 1865. John's family moved to Live Oak, Florida, to start a new life. Most slaves did not know how to read or write, but Sarah's sister, John's Aunt Henrietta, knew how. She taught these skills to John when he was very little. In Live Oak, John was able to go to school for the first time. John loved school and read everything he could find to read. He would read sitting up, he would read sitting down, he would lie down on his tummy and read some more. John wanted to learn everything he could. He was a very good student. Before long, other people were asking John if he would teach them to be good readers too. When John was a teenager, his family moved back to Tallahassee. John's grandfather, Samuel Wells, worked very hard after he was freed from slavery. He used the skills he had learned as a slave from Mr. Kirksey to become a merchant. Grandpa Wells gave John a job. John would go to St. Mark's in a wagon pulled by a mule, pick up fresh fish, and bring them back to sell to people in Tallahassee. Cars had not been invented when John Riley was a young man. Most people walked wherever they wanted to go. Some people owned horses, mules, or oxen. These animals were used in the fields to help plow and carry things. They were also used to pull wagons. A wagon was a very valuable thing to own. Farmers and merchants used wagons to haul things back and forth. Wagons were also used as transportation. John wanted to be a teacher. First, he taught in Wakulla County, Florida. They gave him a small salary, food to eat, and a place to live. The second year, the school could not pay him. The third year, Mr. Riley moved to the Henson School in Gadsden County. He continued his studies. John was one of the first African-American men to earn a Florida teaching certificate. He was hired by the Lincoln Academy in Tallahassee. Lincoln was one of the biggest schools in the whole state. In those days, teachers dressed up for school. Ladies wore dresses and men wore suits. Mr. Riley was a natural leader and was very good at his job. He was promoted to principal in 1893. He retired in 1926. He was 69 years old. John Riley was a very good teacher. He was also a smart businessman. Riley spent his money wisely and saved enough to buy some land. He sold that land and bought some little houses. He fixed them up and rented them to families who could not afford to buy homes of their own. Instead of spending the rent money he collected, he bought more property. Soon he owned many rental houses. Some people say he was the first African-American millionaire in Tallahassee. Mr. Riley had a very special home built for his own family. It is still standing. It is on a special national list because it is over 100 years old. Most slaves were not allowed to go to church, but in Tallahassee, slaves were invited to worship at the Methodist Church. Later, the Methodist people helped African Americans build a church of their own. They named it St. James AME Church. John loved to sing and never forgot all the happy memories he had at St. James. When he became an adult, he served as a trustee at St. James. He loaned them $6,000 to fix the roof on the building and was very generous with his donations. John Riley earned the respect of all the people of Tallahassee. They liked to call him Professor because he was very wise and always willing to share his knowledge with others. He collected food and clothing for poor families. He was an early leader in the fight for civil rights. Mr. Riley was a positive role model for generations of people. People of all colors were always welcomed in his home. In 1954, the John Gilmore Riley Elementary School was named in his honor.
In 1860, Tallahassee was 76% black. Not free, not equal, and not even seen. Entire passages removed. Stories of liberation completely erased. Because freedom was dangerous knowledge.
The Slave Bible drew attention away from passages emphasizing freedom to themes of obedience and submission. For example, there are only a few chapters of the Old Testament story of the Exodus, with little mention of the Israelites in slavery in Egypt and their deliverance. And in the New Testament book of Revelation, which mentioned a new kingdom, it's missing.
Of the few remaining slave Bibles, one is on display at Museum of the Bible.
Despite these omissions and similar attempts to use the Bible to support slavery, enslaved communities were drawn to the story of the Exodus in their remembered stories passed down, and certainly in the words and music of their spirituals.
Names like Antonio Tony Proctor remind us these were not statistics, they were lives. Faith became resistance. Hope became survival.
Blended Lives is a living history experience for our fourth graders in Lynn County School District. The Riley House itself is living history because it has been here for 123 years. Rarely do we get the opportunity, do young people get the opportunity to experience the past through a physical structure like the Riley House.
One of the things we did is put together some curriculum on Harriet Tubman. That was one of the stations that they had. The other ones was to participate in African American music and folklore, that kind of thing. And the third station is to actually go through the John G. Riley Museum and experience the exhibit, learn about the history of the Riley Museum. And we have an animatronics of Mr. Riley, and they have an opportunity to hear him speak to them directly and just visit and know the history of the home.
Waiting in the water, children wait.
to trouble the water. Now, over there is your final destination. That is freedom. I want you to run over there and shout, freedom! 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 Come on back. They hold the lanterns because they were traveling at night. And they were traveling at night, and it's also to, really make sure that the kids get engaged with what happened during that time period. So it was a matter of them being able to, as passengers, listening to the instructions of the conductor, who was Harriet Tubman.
It is the oldest African-American historic house in Tallahassee for sure, no doubt in the Panhandle. That was the home of a former slave that is still standing 123 years later. Original property is being preserved, restored, and is open to the public to come in at any time to experience the past.
Mr. John G. Riley himself was an extraordinary man that served in education. He was the first principal of the old Lincoln High School. And many of the families in this area and properties in this area was owned by Mr. Riley. And we are right next door to a community that is being developed that was also African American, which is Smoky Hollow. And they all know about the famous Amos Cookie man. He used to live in Smoky Hollow. Journey with Miss Jamie. Journey with Miss Jamie. To the Underground Railroad. I implemented the theme song, The Journey with Miss Jamie, because it has the ring to it as to what they actually journeyed to, whether it was the Underground Railroad, the Civil War, the Reconstruction era. That is included in the theme song. So the first thing they'll know is that they'll go home and tell their parents specifically what it was that they sang about.
When people walk into the room and see Mr. Riley, a lot of them think that, oh, this is another like wax museum. But then when he began to bat his eyes and move his foot and then proceed to talk about what Tallahassee was all about, we've had everything from loud screams to people exiting the room right quickly to others walking up and saying, wow, look at his fingers, look at the hair. I mean, this is just like a living person sitting here. So we get a variety of reactions.
And so we want them to know that there's a rich history in this community and they have an awful lot to be proud of. And we want it to be blended lives so that all cultures can learn about it.
It is rare for museums to have a life-size, almost authentic rendering of a person from the past, as we do here at the Riley House. In October of 2008, we thought it would be a good idea for people to not only see the portrait or the photos of Mr. Riley, but to have the opportunity to walk into his space, which he's seated now in his office, and to have him share what it was like for him growing up in Lynn County, living here for 97 years. So that led us to pursue the opportunity to bring him back to his home at 419 East Jefferson Street.
This museum is not just any building, it's a living classroom. A bridge between generations.
And to these fellows here. And their parents and their ancestors were descendants of slaves in Florida. And so every 20th of May, we celebrate beating the drums. They didn't have drums, but they got the drums from the colored troops. After General Cook had read the Emancipation in Leon County and told the slaves that they were free. They didn't have a celebration until the next 2 years. The first celebration in Leon County was at Bull Pond. On that day, 2,000 showed up, and then they beat the drums to celebrate their freedom from slavery. After the celebration moved from Bull Pond to a place on Winthrop Plantation on the shores of Gum Pond, and it was celebrated there for 58 years. And after the plantation system had broken down, it moved to the Henry Hill estate in 1924. And then it's been going on off and on from that time to this time here.
Are We the People segment returns tonight, honoring local people and places that have influenced American history. A Tallahassee woman's decades-long mission to save Florida's Black history from being forgotten is getting national recognition. Althemese Barnes is setting the model of historic preservation across the country. Our Capitol Bureau reporter Cody Butler shares her story.
She spent decades recognizing others who've made a difference in their communities, all while making a difference herself.
My motto is, it's important to know history. History to me, and understand it, is the root of intelligence.
To help people understand that history, Althemese Barnes founded the John Gilmore Riley House and Museum in Tallahassee after retiring from the NAACP in the 1990s.
I just felt there were certain parts of the history that would be meaningful, inspiring, rejuvenating, if people knew it.
Through her work establishing the museum, she created the Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network, which connects other African American museums across the state. It's become the model for museums across the country. The National Trust for Historic Preservation awarded Miss Barnes their highest award, the Louis DuPont Crown and Shield Award.
Most people say I'm too humble. When the people called me and said they were going to nominate me, I said, oh, I don't know about that.
Her work doesn't stop there. She advocated for the legislature to not observe Juneteenth. That's because Florida's Emancipation Day is May 20th. June 19th is when slaves were freed in Texas.
We can make the wrong turn, we can write the wrong thing, we can say the wrong thing if we don't know.
Barnes didn't just open a museum, she rescued a piece of Florida history that was nearly lost and inspired a movement to honor the true. In Tallahassee, I'm Cody Butler reporting.
If you want to understand America, you have to come to places like this. Tallahassee doesn't just tell a story, right? It really lets you feel it. And I promise you, you can feel it as soon as you step on the land. There is an ancient presence there naturally. Stay connected and stay inspired. History is nowhere near behind us. It's just waiting for us to show up. Visit the John G. Riley Museum. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Watch and listen to our museum tour podcast brought to you by the Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network on GIFT TV, on Roku and mobile devices, YouTube, Podbean, and Spotify. We are the culture keepers of FAAPHN.